Imagine standing in the eye of a storm. The winds howl, the world trembles, but you don't. You stand still, calm, untouched. That's not fiction. That's what the Stoics believed you could achieve. Not by controlling the storm, but by mastering your mind. Stoicism isn't about pretending the world is fine. It's about becoming so grounded within yourself that nothing from the outside can truly shake you. You don't become a stone, you become the mountain. How many times have you lost your peace over something trivial? A rude comment, a delayed message, a silent treatment. The Stoics taught that these moments aren't problems because of what happens, but because of how we interpret them. Between what happens and how we feel lies a space, a choice. In that space, there is power. Power to remain unshaken. The journey to this unshakable strength begins with awareness. We often believe the enemy is out there, some person, some situation. But the true battle is internal. The greatest threat to your peace is not the insult, but the thought that says, "They shouldn't treat me like that." Not the rejection, but the inner voice that whispers, "I'm not good enough." We're not disturbed by events, Epictetus reminded us, but by our judgments of them. Imagine, for a moment, someone insults you. You have two choices. You can absorb those words, let them carve into your self-worth, or you can realize they're just sound waves, empty of power unless you grant them meaning. When your inner fortress is strong, those words bounce off like arrows against steel. The first Stoic lesson, then, is this: build your invisible shield. That shield is awareness. It's forged by noticing your thoughts before they spiral. The moment you feel your chest tighten, your mind race, pause. Ask yourself, does this deserve my energy? Is this about me, or is it just noise? You begin to see that most of your suffering isn't caused by life, but by interpretation. A traffic jam isn't an attack on your dignity. A criticism isn't a verdict on your value. A delay isn't a personal betrayal. When you realize this, you become the gatekeeper of your own mind. Nothing enters without your permission. But shields alone aren't enough. You also need to master the second weapon, silence. We live in a world that screams. Online, everyone rushes to react. In person, people fight to get the last word. But what if silence was your strength? What if choosing not to respond wasn't weakness, but wisdom? Silence gives you time. Time to feel without reacting. Time to think before speaking. Time to realize that most provocations are traps for your energy. The moment you react, you've lost control. But when you remain quiet, not from fear, but from clarity, you reveal who's truly in command. Imagine someone insults you publicly. Most people would lash back or try to explain. But a Stoic stands still, unmoved. Not because they're cold, but because they refuse to be puppets on the strings of others' emotions. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That strength lies in restraint. Not in silence as suppression, but in silence as choice. You pause. You observe. You ask, is this battle worth my peace? Most often, the answer is no. And in that moment, your silence becomes deafening. It exposes the other person's chaos while you remain a calm sea. Still, silence doesn't mean avoiding responsibility. Sometimes we must speak, but only after silence has done its work. Only once emotion has cooled and clarity has returned. The wise speak little, but when they do, it cuts deeper than noise ever could. This brings us to the third Stoic lesson, the art of selective attention. Not everything deserves a reaction. Not every message deserves a reply. Not every opinion deserves your worry. The Stoics believed in the power of disprezo, not as arrogance, but as discernment. They didn't reject the world, they filtered it. Life is filled with distractions, judgments, praise, criticism, drama. But you don't need to absorb it all. Your energy is finite. Don't spend it on what is meaningless. Picture yourself as a stone in a river. The current rushes past, but you don't resist, nor do you let it sweep you away. You remain centered, aware, unmoved. That's the essence of Stoic indifference. Not coldness, but clarity. Seneca once wrote, "Nothing is more worthy of contempt than to worry about others' contempt." Think about that. So much of our stress stems from worrying about what others think. But why should their opinion hold power over your peace? Why let someone else's chaos create chaos in you? To apply this, ask yourself, will this matter a year from now? If not, let it go. If it doesn't align with your values or purpose, don't let it rent space in your mind. Choose what to care about. Let the rest drift by like leaves on water. And when you master this, you unlock the fourth lesson: widen your horizon. In the midst of a storm, everything feels eternal. Pain feels endless. Stress feels permanent. But the Stoic knows, it's not. Everything passes. Even this. When you zoom out, you gain power. You remember that today's pain is tomorrow's story. That what seems unbearable now will one day be a memory. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it's endurable, then endure it." Simple. Profound. True. The key isn't to deny the storm, it's to understand its timeline. The Stoic doesn't pretend suffering doesn't exist. They acknowledge it and see through it. Every difficulty has an expiration date. The job is not to escape the moment, but to see it from above. Imagine looking down at your life from a mountain. The arguments, the setbacks, the pain, they look smaller. They fit into a bigger map. This detachment gives you clarity. The present is no longer a prison, it's just a passage. To practice this, ask, will this matter in 5 years? Often, you'll find the answer is no. And with that awareness, the emotional weight lightens. You breathe deeper. You choose better. Because to be unshakable is not to be numb. It's to be rooted. To see the chaos, feel the wind, but know you are more than this moment. And if you've come this far, you're already building that mindset. So pause here. Reflect. The storm will always be there. But now, you're learning how to stand inside it. The weight of expectation is one of the heaviest burdens the human mind can carry. We build visions of how things should unfold, how people should treat us, how events should go, how life should reward our efforts. But the Stoics knew, these imagined scripts are traps. The more we cling to how things are supposed to be, the more we suffer when they're not. You might expect recognition at work and feel frustrated when it doesn't come. You might plan a perfect day and feel defeated when chaos intervenes. You might pour your energy into a relationship and feel resentful when it doesn't evolve the way you hoped. But here's the thing, none of those outcomes were ever truly within your control. This is the fifth lesson on the path to becoming unshakable, letting go of expectations. The Stoics teach that peace is found not in shaping the world, but in shaping how we meet the world. You are in charge of your thoughts, your choices, your actions. Everything else, reactions, results, outcomes, is beyond your grasp. When you release your grip on the uncontrollable, you also release your suffering. Marcus Aurelius reminds us each day to expect rudeness, ingratitude, even cruelty, not because we are cynical, but because we are wise. We don't demand the world be gentle. We become strong enough to meet it as it is. Every morning, remind yourself, people will be who they are. Plans may not go as expected. Life will unfold its own way. And I will meet it with calm. This daily preparation trains your mind to be adaptable, like water, flexible, fluid, flowing through obstacles rather than breaking against them. And yet, expectations don't just hurt us externally, they turn inward as well. We expect ourselves to be perfect, to always say the right thing, to never fail. But this is just another prison. The Stoic doesn't demand flawlessness. They strive for progress. If you fall short today, learn. If you lose your temper, acknowledge it, reset, and do better next time. Expectations will whisper, "You're not good enough until," but the Stoic answers, "I am doing my best with what I control." That is enough. Nowhere does this principle shine more than in the sixth lesson, the power of discomfort. Discomfort is often viewed as an enemy, something to be avoided. But the Stoics saw it as a powerful teacher. Cold, hunger, challenge, loss, these aren't punishments. They're opportunities to grow. Seneca famously advised his students to deliberately practice poverty, sleeping on hard ground and wearing rough clothing, not to suffer needlessly, but to remind themselves, "I can endure. I need less than I think. I am not fragile." Modern life has made us comfortable. Too comfortable. And comfort, while pleasant, can also dull the soul. The more we avoid discomfort, the more we fear it. And what we fear controls us. A cold shower, a skipped meal, a difficult conversation, these are not acts of self-punishment. They are strength training for the soul. When you seek discomfort with intention, you're telling life, "I'm not afraid of what you throw at me." You begin to realize that resilience isn't built during easy times. It's forged in challenge. Like a muscle, it grows under pressure. So the next time you feel resistance, cold, tired, nervous, lean in. Not recklessly, but deliberately. Discomfort is temporary. The strength it brings is permanent. The Stoic seeks hardship not because they enjoy suffering, but because they understand it. They know that by mastering the small discomforts, they'll be ready for the big ones. That when life truly tests them, they won't flinch. They've already trained for it. But there's another trap the Stoic avoids, one that quietly poisons our peace: personalization. This is the seventh lesson, the value of wise indifference. Most of the pain we carry doesn't come from what happens, but from what we make it mean. Someone ignores our message, we assume it's about us. A friend forgets a birthday, we feel unloved. A stranger cuts us off in traffic, we take it as a personal insult. But here's the truth, not everything is about you. The Stoic learns to stop filtering life through the lens of the ego. They don't assume malice where there may be stress, or offense where there may be distraction. They know that most people are acting from their own struggles, their own confusion, their own inner chaos. You are not the center of their universe. And that's liberating. Wise indifference is not coldness. It's clarity. It means choosing not to react to every emotional gust of wind. It means letting go of the need to respond, to defend, to correct. Not because you don't care, but because you care more about your peace. Imagine scrolling through social media and seeing an attack or a criticism. You feel the urge to reply, to fight back. But what if you didn't? What if you let it be? What if you treated it as noise, not worth your breath? In that moment, you reclaim your power. The world will provoke you. The world will misunderstand you. But you don't have to hand over your peace to every passing moment. The Stoics remind us that what others think, say, or do, that's on them. Your response, that's on you. So the next time you feel offended, pause. Ask yourself, is this really about me? Or is this about them? Most of the time, you'll find the storm isn't yours to fight. Nowhere is this more important than in the eighth and final lesson, resisting comparison. If you want to feel miserable, there's a simple formula: compare your life to someone else's highlight reel. Their success, their beauty, their ease. It's all curated, filtered, and presented as perfection. And yet, we believe it. We believe we're behind. We believe we're less. The Stoic calls this for what it is: illusion. You are not behind. You are on your own path. Life isn't a race. It's not even a competition. Each person has a unique journey, with challenges and timing that cannot, and should not, be measured against anyone else's. Marcus Aurelius warned against wasting life wishing for what you don't have. Because in doing so, you fail to see the miracle of what you do have. Gratitude is the antidote to comparison. Every time you feel envy rise, pause. Name 3 things you're grateful for, not in theory, but in your lived experience. Anchor yourself in your reality. You don't need their success, their looks, their luck. You need only your direction. The only meaningful comparison is this: am I better today than I was yesterday? If so, you're winning. So stop looking sideways. Look inward. Look forward. The Stoic walks their own path, eyes clear, heart focused. Because when you do that, when you stop demanding, reacting, personalizing, comparing, you find something extraordinary. You. The resilient you. The calm you. The unshakable you. And that's not just theory. That's a choice. A practice. A path. You've walked it today. There's a moment in every storm when the wind slows, the clouds part, and a stillness returns. In life, we chase that stillness, yet few know how to find it. The Stoics understood, the real calm isn't found outside. It's built within. And it begins not with what we add, but with what we release. Now that we've explored the core lessons of Stoic resilience, from mastering your mind to silencing reaction, from releasing expectation to resisting comparison, it's time to descend deeper. Not just into strategy, but into the shift in identity that Stoicism demands. You don't simply learn Stoicism. You become it. And that transformation starts with how you perceive yourself. Let's begin with a brutal truth: you are not your thoughts. This sounds simple. But how often do you identify with your emotions, your shame, your anger, your doubt, as if they are you? The Stoics taught that while thoughts and feelings arise, you are the observer behind them. You are the one choosing what to believe, what to feed, and what to let pass. Imagine your mind as a theater stage. Thoughts walk across, some with wild costumes, fear, insecurity, rage. But you're not the actor. You're the director in the dark, deciding who gets the spotlight. Most people don't live this way. They are puppets of their internal weather, reacting automatically, identifying with every passing thought. But the Stoic trains themselves, moment by moment, to pause. To notice. To choose. When anger knocks, they don't say, "I am angry." They say, "Anger is here. Should I let it in?" That distinction, between what arises and what you allow, is the gateway to true freedom. Because if you are not your emotions, then you are not at their mercy. This mindset forms the foundation of what we might call mental immunity. Just as the body can be trained to resist illness, the mind can be trained to resist chaos. But immunity isn't avoidance. It's exposure, followed by mastery. Take conflict. Most people either explode or retreat. But the Stoic approaches conflict with a surgeon's calm. They ask, what is the nature of this friction? Is it useful? Can it be resolved? They aren't afraid to speak, but they are equally unafraid to walk away. They don't argue for ego. They act from clarity. This brings us to an often misunderstood trait of the Stoic, their apparent detachment. To outsiders, the Stoic may seem cold, indifferent, emotionally flat. But that's a misreading. What you're seeing is clarity without chaos, emotion, not as a tyrant, but as a servant. The Stoic doesn't suppress feeling. They just don't let it hijack their behavior. When grief comes, they feel it. But they don't drown in it. When joy comes, they welcome it. But they don't chase it endlessly. This emotional balance gives birth to something rare, inner dignity. A person who can remain rooted, not because they've never been shaken, but because they've trained to remain standing. Nowhere is this more visible than in daily life. Consider this: you're waiting in line, running late, the person in front is rude. What do? The reactive mind grits its teeth, snaps, curses the unfairness. The Stoic breathes. They ask, can I control this? No. Then why fight it? They choose to remain the master of themselves, even when the world invites them to become a slave to reaction. But there's more. This mindset isn't just about what you resist. It's also about what you pursue. You see, being unshakable doesn't mean standing still. It means moving forward, with intention. The Stoic doesn't merely endure life. They engage with it, fully. They love, create, build, risk, but without attachment to outcome. This is called amor fati, love of fate. Amor fati is not passive acceptance. It is passionate alignment with reality. It is looking at each moment, even the painful ones, and saying, this too is mine. I accept it. I will use it. When you live this way, life stops being something to control, and becomes something to collaborate with. You no longer resist what happens, you respond. This practice requires something rare in today's world, slowness. Not laziness. Not delay. But a kind of deliberate pacing that allows for depth. Most people live in reaction. The Stoic lives in rhythm. They slow down to see clearly. They pause to align their response with values, not emotions. Imagine being that person in a heated conversation who doesn't interrupt, doesn't attack, doesn't flinch, but waits, breathes, and then speaks, once, clearly, and with impact. That's not weakness. That's control. That's strength that doesn't need to raise its voice. And from this strength comes one final layer of being unshakable, peace with imperfection. We live in a culture obsessed with optimization, better productivity, higher status, more success. But the Stoic doesn't chase perfection. They chase progress. Every day, they ask, where did I react? What did I learn? Where can I improve? This daily reflection, often done at night, isn't a form of self-shaming. It's a way of staying awake, of keeping the soul sharp. Marcus Aurelius would ask himself each evening, what did I do today that aligned with virtue? Where did I stray? What can I do better tomorrow? This ritual isn't glamorous. It's not loud. But over time, it builds a kind of quiet integrity that no failure can touch. Because in the end, to be unshakable doesn't mean you never fall. It means you rise, again and again, from a deeper place each time. It means your center holds, even as life spins. It means you are no longer at the mercy of moods, opinions, or fate. You are not a slave to your thoughts. You are not a prisoner of emotion. You are not a shadow of other people's expectations. You are you, calm, clear, firm. Not because the world is safe, but because your mind is strong. You have become, not perfect, but practiced. Not cold, but composed. Not distant, but deeply anchored. And this, more than any philosophy, is what Stoicism offers. Not rules. Not theories. But a way to walk through the fire, and remain whole. By now, you've walked through fire without flinching. You've trained your mind to become a fortress, your emotions to serve rather than sabotage, and your actions to reflect intention over impulse. But to truly complete the Stoic path, to live as though nothing could shake you, you must confront one final challenge. The world's chaos is endless. But your energy is not. Even the most disciplined mind can become drained. Even the most resilient soul can feel worn thin. That's why the final lesson isn't about pushing harder, it's about protecting smarter. And it begins with this: you don't have to fight every battle. A central principle of Stoicism is the economy of effort, knowing where your energy belongs, and where it's being wasted. Not everything deserves your attention. Not every challenge is your burden to bear. Not every flame needs to be put out by you. We often fall into the trap of believing we must correct every wrong, answer every critic, fix every broken system around us. But the Stoic doesn't burn themselves out trying to change what resists change. Instead, they ask, what part of this is mine to carry? If the answer is none, they step back. Not out of apathy, but out of clarity. This is why discernment is the highest form of strength. It's not about doing more, it's about choosing what matters most, and letting the rest fade into irrelevance. The unshakable person doesn't just say no to distractions, they say yes to their deeper path. And yet, even on that path, life will test you. There will be grief, betrayal, failure, change. These are not threats to the Stoic, they are fuel. Because here's a truth many avoid: you will lose things. You will lose people. You will lose versions of yourself. And that is not a flaw in life. It is the design. The Stoic grieves. But they do not collapse. They feel the loss. But they do not become the loss. They acknowledge the pain, hold it in their chest, and then, they stand up and move forward. Because they know something deeper than comfort: what remains after loss is your essence. And that can never be taken. When you learn this, you stop clinging. You stop grasping. You begin to live with a kind of open palm, appreciating everything, expecting nothing, losing nothing that defines you. This way of living brings a strange but powerful kind of joy. Not the shallow joy of pleasure, but the rooted joy of alignment. You no longer need life to go your way to feel peace. You carry your way within you. And in this final phase, the Stoic learns to live as an example, not by preaching, but by embodying. Because Stoicism, in the end, is not about withdrawal, it's about leadership. When the world loses its head, you remain calm, and others feel safer just being near you. When people shout and blame, you speak simply, and they hear truth. When others chase attention, you offer presence, and they feel seen. The unshakable life becomes a silent revolution. Not in what you say, but in what you no longer need to say. Because you've become something rare, a person who has nothing to prove, yet proves everything in how they live. Let's revisit what that life looks like. It's waking up each day and choosing clarity over chaos. It's recognizing that peace doesn't arrive, it's created, thought by thought, moment by moment. It's responding to setbacks not with despair, but with discipline. It's seeing through offense, through noise, through illusion, and choosing not to join the storm. It's understanding that the opinions of others are projections, not verdicts. It's knowing your value is not a vote. It's an inner knowing. It's staying rooted when the world shakes, anchored when others drift, silent when noise swells. That kind of life doesn't require perfection. But it does require practice. So start small. When someone frustrates you, pause before reacting. When plans fall apart, breathe and adjust. When emotions rise, notice them like passing clouds. When envy whispers, turn inward and realign. Each time you do, you build strength, not for display, but for direction. The true Stoic isn't showy. They don't walk around quoting Seneca. They live the philosophy in how they treat a waiter, how they handle delays, how they love without clinging, how they lose without crumbling. And over time, this inner posture becomes who you are. You'll forget the rules. But you'll remember the rhythm. You'll forget the lessons. But you'll live the wisdom. That's the real goal, not to carry Stoicism as a theory, but to walk it as a way of being. So, if you've come this far, you've done more than understand a philosophy. You've begun embodying a deeper way of moving through life. You no longer react, you respond. You no longer cling, you allow. You no longer chase control, you return to calm. You no longer fear discomfort, you walk with it. You no longer compare, you align with your path. And perhaps most important, you no longer live at the mercy of life. Because now, you live with direction. You live with discipline. You live with dignity. And that is the art of being unshakable. Not because the world is soft, but because you have become strong. Not because nothing touches you, but because nothing owns you. Not because you've stopped feeling, but because your feelings no longer rule you. This is Stoicism lived, not in temples, not in books, but in real moments, under real pressure, inside a real, ordinary life. And when you live this way, you don't need to say you're unshakable. The world will feel it. And more importantly, you will feel it. Because you've built the one thing no storm can steal. A mind that is calm. A heart that is steady. A life that leads itself. Welcome to the path. You've earned your armor.